Hi, everybody. I am Matt with K15T. Welcome to the live stream. Today, we're going to be talking all about structuring Confluence for success. This is a really exciting live stream because I've been working with Confluence for maybe 7 years now as an administrator, as an implementer, as, an advisor. And I have gotten this question so many times. How do you structure Confluence so that it will be successful? So that when people jump into it, they can get going, they can start collaborating. It's a problem small organizations have, large organizations have. And so today we are here to talk about that, but we are live. That's right, we are live. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have comments, throw them into the live chat. To the right of me or below me, whatever device you're on, there is a live chat where you should be throwing in your comments, your questions, and help guide the live stream. That's right, you're not watching a video, you're here with us as well. Speaking of us, I'm joined by two folks today. Gorka Puente from Appfire will be joining us for the first half hour, and then we will be joined by DJ Chung, who is a senior product manager on the Confluence team, and we'll continue the conversation around working with great spaces. So enough of me talking. I want to talk just a little bit with Gorka. And first of all, I just want to mention, we all have goals for Confluence, right? We didn't just bring Confluence in because it was a new shiny tool. We brought Confluence in because we wanted to accomplish something. And so structuring our spaces properly helps us achieve those goals and actually make something happen. So Gorka, thanks so much for joining the stream today.
Thank you for the invitation, because it's something that I've been looking at and doing research, how to properly organize corporate wikis. And yeah, wikis have a mission, and corporate wikis has a very specific mission, and it's because they are within the corporate setting, and depending on if it's a wiki for documentation, for our teams to collaborate or create projects, we want it to be successful because we are in an organization. We are not in an open community, for example, like the Wikipedia, right? So it is important to be successful here.
And you have been you've been organizing corporate wikis for a while, right? You mentioned a tool that predates Confluence that you've been working with.
Yeah. Well, Confluence is my favorite wiki, but before that, I started with Confluence in 2013. Before that, I did research. I did research in corporate wikis, and I used MediaWiki. And the reality is that the software behind the corporate wiki is not that important. What it is important is the nature of the hosting organization when it comes to organizing the wiki. Of course, the software is really important, the wiki engine, but to have this organization that we are going to see is not that important. What tool do we use? But if we discuss about the nature of the wiki, it is important. Wikipedia is an open community, right? And users starts from scratch. But in a corporate wiki, we don't start from scratch. First of all, we got our users that are not volunteers, our users are employees of the organization. There are some unique needs. For example, complex access mechanisms are usually in place. We need content approvals, and all the corporate settings that already exist in our organization. Somehow we have to mimic that in the corporate wiki, and sometimes from the beginning, internal processes. We got policies, we got departments, we got 16 projects, and what is important, we had to put that in place, and we had to align that to the business strategy. That's the mission we had to fulfill, right? The business strategy of our organization. So yeah, that's important to fulfill the mission.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking about Confluence. So we have this sort of hierarchy of spaces, which are, there's not really a hierarchy of those. They're all sort of the same level. And then we have this page tree within each space, and then we have pages. So talk to me a little bit about like day one. You've mentioned to me in the past something called empty wiki syndrome. Like, tell me a little bit, how do we make this successful?
Yeah, we can kind of structure the wiki in 3 different levels. First, at wiki level, we got the spaces. So we had to first make a decision on what's going to be a space. Then in each space, we had to think of the page hierarchy, right? These 3 hierarchy that we got within spaces. And then at page level, we got another structure, right? Is the content, the layout, if we structure with formatting, with tables. But the good news is that we don't have to do everything the first day. And by first day, I mean first day, week, month, because wikis evolve thanks to the community. In this case, thanks to the users of the organization. And Ward Cunningham, who was the first creator of the first wiki, also co-author of the Wiki Manifesto, called this the wiki's organic principle. The wiki's organic principle is or it means that the wikis are open to collaboration, open to editing, and they are going to evolve and they are going to grow over time. So with an initial structure, that's enough. And so we don't have to fall in what you mentioned, right? The empty wiki syndrome, which is an analogy to the famous writer's blank page syndrome, when a writer starts at a blank page and they don't know where to start, right? The same happens when you open a wiki and it's empty, or you open a space and it's empty, or you open a page and it's empty. So we have to start giving that structure. And what I recommend is, like, when you create a presentation, choose a planning tool. So a planning tool can be a piece of paper, that's fine, that's a planning tool. It can be a whiteboard, digital or physical whiteboard. It can be whatever, but don't start right away in Confluence. Why? Because you are going to start thinking of the tool and not on the organization you have to give. It's like I put an analogy also with presentations. Don't start with Keynote. Don't start with PowerPoint. Start with a piece of paper or whatever. Start with your story. What do you want to do, right? And when you do that, you start working on the organization. For example, at the beginning, I like to use mind maps. A mind map is this this representation of a concept, right? That you start with a central node, central idea, right? And you got these branches out of the central node with nodes, and that can be super easily turned into a tree hierarchy of pages. In this case, what we are seeing here, we can have the structure of a new product and the different pages that we are going to have in the first level: get started, admin guide, whatever, and have that as a planning tool. This is in our portfolio in Appfire. We got one of our products is a whiteboard. So we use, of course, these whiteboards, which is great. As a product manager, I also use it for road mapping, for example. But you don't have to use that. Use whatever you want, but use something, right? Don't go directly into Confluence, because you're going to start thinking of how can I do this nice looking page. Or, no, start with something, right?
Yeah, and a good wiki doesn't start up like you're planning out a website, for example. Like you're just kind of trying to get your ideas out of, like, what are the main ideas that need to come out and what kind of structures need to sort of organically grow. So you're just like an artist would sketch before they start painting. You're just kind of like roughly like, okay, so I think these are the main ideas and concepts that need to come out. So as a real quick, thanks so much everybody for joining. Sorry for the little technical blip at the beginning. We're still learning how to stream and I'm still messing it up a little bit. But just a reminder, we'll keep doing live streams and producing videos. There's a little subscribe button there that you can hit to continue on the journey with us. But speaking of the journey, let's talk a little bit directly about the top level of Confluence, which is those spaces. So how do we organize spaces, Gorka, if there is no hierarchy of spaces? How do we do that?
Yeah. You cannot have a space and children spaces, not at least not with the native mechanisms. The only way of categorize spaces is by using labels. That I saw that you did a really nice live streaming about how to create a label system in Confluence. So here, go back to okay, our organizational setting. We have to choose what's going to be a space for us, what we are going to equal to a space. Do we have projects? Do we have services, clients, product categories, departments? What's going to be the entity, right, that we are going to turn into a space? And then each of those spaces, they can have a different name. Maybe we have a space to follow the project, or as a documentation, knowledge base, or to do research, right? So first thing, our spaces are going to be client, departments are going to be services, products, what's going to be. And if you have something that you know that you are going to equal, you got your first initial structure. For example, I'm going to put the example. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be like, you're going to see the light, right? And in Appfire, for example, we got a large portfolio. We got like 200 apps. And we divide those apps into solution categories, and we got 9 different solution categories that we can see here, right? And in each of these solution categories, we got different products. So for us, now you start to see things, right? We are going to have, for each of those product categories, right? For each of those solution categories, we're going to have a space. So right out of the blue, we already have those spaces. And then we also, in Appfire, we got in triads. A triad is a team to handle these categories, where we have the product marketing manager, the head of product engineer, and we have the product manager. So each of these things are across all categories. So we have also, for each of these teams, you can imagine that we got a space for product engineer, a space for product management, and a space for product marketing. So, and of course, then you have a space for news, corporate social responsibility, operations, support, human resources, for all that, right? But we, mimicking our corporate strategy, our way of working, we already have an interesting organization of the spaces. And remember, I'm gonna go back again to following and aligning with the corporate strategy. This is how we work. This is how we're gonna structure all our content, right? Wiki level.
Right. All right. So that's okay. So we have our spaces, which honestly, if one team starts to use Confluence, generally you're going to start with just like, a space for your team, or maybe a space for what your team is doing. Like you said, maybe, project spaces, or a space with all your projects. But then you've also sort of thought of, okay, how can that grow out when the second team joins, when the second business structure, jumps in? How do we change that? So now we sort of talked about the space level. So let's talk about the page tree, because I think that's really where things fall apart. Somebody jumps into a page tree or into a space, and then they're like, oh, this is empty, or there's like one page here, and then all of a sudden, like, people just start going crazy. So what should a space look like when somebody first jumps in? Because I'd imagine that blank space is just not ideal.
No, because we were in like at the beginning, right? With nothing, you open something, one space, and there is nothing inside, right? So again, let's think of our corporate unit. In this case, for example, one of these solution categories, like mine is BI and reporting. If we are going to have different of these, there is in Confluence an awesome mechanism, which is a space blueprint. What's a space blueprint? A space blueprint is a template, which is great because we can have consistency, which is really important for people to know where they are and what they can contribute. You see things that are repeating, you know, okay, I can do that because I seen the other team that they are doing that. So consistency is really important. And space blueprints that we're going to see now, an example, is a template that creates a space with content, with some pages, with sample content to help you start it, which is going to be awesome. These space blueprints, Confluence already provides a few, and there are other third-party apps that also provide some space blueprints, or you can implement, this is important, you can implement your own space blueprints. Imagine that you are a company based on projects, and you create a project per client. So projects are the basic structure. I'm always talking about the basic structure. You're going to have a risk assessment. You're going to have the project definition, the project document control, the budget. All these elements are going to be pages that probably with some content we'll see later. So it makes sense to have a space blueprint. So whenever there is someone that is going to create a new project in space, with 2 clicks, everything is ready to start contributing, right? What we can do is see how easy it is to create a space blueprint, right? Okay, we are gonna be a company where we create a space per app, for example. And this is gonna be an app where we want to document the app. So here we just click on create a space, and we have what is called space blueprints. And we mentioned it's an app, and we are going to create the documentation of that. Okay, so documentation space, right? So our app is going to be super normal, so normal app, and it's going to be our documentation. So with this simple action, we are creating a structure where the engineer team, the marketing team, or the product manager can start adding content to our normal app documentation space, right? We got a few pages that are already created, how to getting started. Even those pages already have some content, right? So we know, getting started. What do I have to start writing the getting started for this app? I know what I had to do, right? So I got something, and what I mentioned, and you can keep consistency between all the documentation in all your apps. We do that internally, and this is funny because we use one of your apps, K15T's scroll viewport. And why we use this? Because our wiki is private. We create our documentation, and it's I can show you that here, and you can see getting started, advanced user guides, and this is a scroll viewport. A scroll viewport, for those who doesn't know, it takes a space in Confluence and publish externally, and you don't have to worry about permissions to your Confluence instance. And we do this for our apps, right? Same structure is good for users, it's good for customers, because across your whole portfolio, they know where they can find, I don't know, the admin guide, for example, or it's going to be here. So same structure is always really, really useful and easy to replicate and go back. And last thing I want to show you about this, remember that I mentioned that we work in product triads in these solution categories. So I'm the product manager here in the BI reporting category. So as you can imagine, the hierarchy of this space is going to have a section, a page with children pages for product management, for product marketing, for product engineer, and we got other for to have the team. And in product management, what we're going to have, well, a roadmap, for example, that I do for all the apps in this category, right? Remember, we got BI reporting, a bunch of categories. So the roadmaps of these apps are going to be here, right? It's super logical. And we have this mechanism, this process across all our categories. Different roadmaps, for example, for the different years. Of course, we got for each of the apps, product management related pages, the voice of the customers. In product engineer, they got uplifting of apps, 45 program, the same for product marketing and everything. And the roadmaps that I mentioned whiteboards that I use. This is not, of course, the real one because we cannot share our secret source. But yeah. You thought it, but no, it's not. No, but almost. I can share something with you, and that's how you structure a space, right? Important consistency. Try to use space blueprints, and try to again mimic that corporate setting or that those corporate processes or department things that you use.
Awesome. Yeah, and another arrow in the quiver is also page blueprints, which if you go to the templates section and you select like meeting notes, a page blueprint is like it'll create the parent page, which is meeting notes, and then all pages underneath that will have a consistent meeting notes template. It's another way of like creating just multiple pages rather than that whole space. But yeah, it's these blueprints are super helpful in establishing that consistency. Unfortunately, you still kind of need development skills to put those together. But like you mentioned, there are third-party apps on the marketplace to extend that a bit, which is nice. Cody, thanks for the shout out in the chat. You're the real hero here. It's so great to have you. And you got a kudos from Miguel on your great explanation there, Gorka. Thanks so much for jumping in the chat, everybody. Please jump in there with questions. I really want to make Gorka sweat a little bit. So if you have a really tough one, please drop it in the chat and I'll bring it to his attention. Okay, so we've looked at spaces. We're into the page tree, which is, we've talked about blueprints being so helpful there in making sure that we're getting the important bits of the page tree to be consistent. Now let's talk about pages. What do you recommend for that last part of the hierarchy so that people can, find what they're looking for?
Another great mechanism, same idea as for space blueprints. We got page blueprints and page templates. What's the difference? Pretty much is the same. We had to think of blueprints as templates that are created either by Confluence or third-party apps, and page templates, the ones that you or your admin creates for you. In here, in page organization, this probably I'm saying this in all because for me everything is super important, but it's really important how we structure and how we create the layout of pages, because at the end is what users are going to read, right? And you are communicating something that for you is important, right? Use formatting, use headings, use tables to communicate important information. Keep pages consistent, right? Meeting notes, if meeting notes are always have a summary, have attendees, keep that that structure. I mean, it doesn't matter what structure is going to be, keep it consistent. And for that, the great mechanism is page blueprints. In this case, Confluence has like 100 and I don't know how many, a lot, and really good ones. So use that. And also format in write those pages because you are transmitting that information. And here, what I recommend is start by creating pages, start by using existing page blueprints, and when you feel comfortable, start editing those. And when you are a master of page blueprints, create your own templates for your team, right? Here, I'm gonna go back to our how we work, right? In Appfire, in the triad. And in product marketing, probably, well, we do a lot of analysis of different products, of competitors. You guess we got a page template for that, right?
Right.
How easy or difficult is to create one in Confluence? Well, is the surprise is that it's really easy. You go to the settings, and here you can edit the existing ones, right? Super simple edit, or you can create your own template. In this case, I'm gonna show you one that we created, and here one mechanism that you had to use is placeholders. What's a placeholder? It's text to explain what is gonna be whatever users are gonna see when they create a page with your template, right? Explain the sections, explain the images, explain the tables, explain whatever. give explanations, because it's going to be what is going to guide the user to add the content. In this case, for example, we have a table of content of whatever is going to be on this page, an explanation. If we have a table that we use, again, from our portfolio, because we have a really nice portfolio of apps, and this is one of my favorites, is advanced tables. So we communicate the right content in the right way, given nicely formatted tables. So we use advanced tables. For the competitor analysis, the same. So, well, different data. In this case, active installation, reviews, hosting, pricing, right? All the information. Again, here, some placeholder. And, well, this another example of things that we look at with forecasting and everything. If we have to add assets like logos or different things, also everything is going to be here. And then when we have this page template created, we go to, in this case, since I was with BI reporting, which is my category, in product marketing, whenever we want to create a new product analysis, we create in a normal page, but instead of starting from scratch, we're gonna use a template. In this case is the product analysis template that we previously created, and you just need to give meaningful name, product. No, we said it was normal, our normal app versus products. So, and we got all the content nicely formatted. I got all the information. I don't have to remember if how many metrics do I have to look. So everything is ready here.
Right.
I just fill everything, save it, and done. Consistency, really nice presented data, and we got the content of our competitor analysis ready to go. And if you want something really nice with advanced tables, but you can use normal Confluence tables too. And yeah, and that's pretty much how you do the organization within a page, at page level.
I love this so much. So we have so first off, TJ gave a huge shout out to Blueprints. They are the true hero here. But we have two interesting questions. First of all, Carrie, thanks for the shout out. Gorka does know what he's talking about. That's why he's the one talking right now and not me. But we had an interesting question from Alan, and I think it's kind of answered by sort of these different structured approaches. So he said, like, is there any advice for imposing consistent information architecture on a space that seems to just drift toward anarchy? You know, just everything goes crazy. I mean, as far as Confluence goes, you can't enforce it. You know, you can't force anybody to use blueprints and templates, but you can make that easy. So like one thing that we found helps is using the create from template macro. So you take that great template that you've made, like for your product marketing, and then you make that the easier to get to by putting a macro right on the page where you want to have all your product marketing pages. So somebody can just click the button and it creates the page using that template. Right. That's been really successful. We also have a free app called Create from Template Pro that gives you a few more abilities there. But I would say that's probably a good way, a good option. Another question was any advice, or excuse me, how do you structure a database in Confluence? Very quickly, I was going to show, so this is a page from us internally that I really like, and it shows sort of how we structure a few things on a page. So this is for one of our content projects. So this was a video that we made a while back, and you can see we have just like a ton of information here. So here we have information on the content project. Here we have a table of contents macro here. Over on this side, we have the script for the video. On this side, we have the checklist of all the things we need to do to get this video out. So we've got a ton of information here that's been structured really nicely. Now you could, but this is sort of the heart and soul here. So this is all the important details, including the status of sort of where it is. You could do this with a page properties macro, but we've actually used our app orderly databases here. And the reason being, it looks great on the page here, and it's great. Like I could really quickly update the status us here. This one has been published. But the nice thing is we have a full-on database. Here's all of our content projects. I can look at them really quickly here. I can see the status of each one, where they are. And then the really cool thing is like, I could filter this down. So if I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I want to see all of the ones that we've published because I want to pat myself on the back, right? This is all done with orderly databases. So you have like a proper database in Confluence that's connected to all your pages. But that's just another way of bringing structure to your content. So let's see, other questions. Do we have some? Another kudos to you, Gorka, for your amazing rundown. I'm not seeing any other questions right now, but if you do have questions, please throw them in the live chat, and I will get to them. In the meantime, wow, time has flown. and unfortunately, we have to wrap things up a little bit, but I just wanted to give a quick thank you to Gorka for the amazing knowledge that he's just like dumped into our brains right now about creating structure. I mean, you've been rocking wiki structure since Wikimedia was the new hotness. I did want to just share, this is the Appfire hub. It's just called the hub. And Gorka worked on an incredible article on here that is all about what we've talked about today, and then some. There's like a ton of content in here. And actually, the hub is just full of stuff. And I really love it because, first of all, it's dark mode by default. You can navigate through these solution-based articles. And then if you're like looking for a solution for some of these things, you can see on the right-hand side some of the Appfire apps that they like recommend to help you solve some of those problems. So I would recommend check out the hub because it is full of great content. Hey, Carrie, it's you. So definitely check that out. But thank you so much for joining us, Gorka. This has been really, really awesome. And now I'm excited for our next guest. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome, Gorka. Now you can sit back and enjoy the rest of the stream. All right, so welcome everybody to the after party. This is the part of the stream where our first guest gets to relax and we bring someone new out. I hope you have a few more minutes to join us because we are going to be bringing in another guest. That's right, a new face. DJ Chung, Senior Product Manager from the Confluence team, is going to be talking with us a little bit more about spaces. So, DJ, it is so great to have you here. Thanks so much for hanging out for the first part of the live stream and then jumping in here for the second bit. Where are you located around the world, DJ?
Yeah, I'm in California, in the Bay Area.
All right, so we can all send kudos to DJ for waking up so early to join us here for this live stream. It's an early live stream for DJ. That's why he has that beautiful morning gaze. But you wanted to talk to us a little bit more about spaces, because as we talked about, that's an important part of the hierarchy. And honestly, as was mentioned in the comments, it's really the space that can drift into total anarchy. So tell us, what tips do you have? What does your team do? How do you organize your team spaces?
Yeah. So first of all, appreciate everyone joining the live stream. And I am a product manager on a team, as you can see here, called Confluence Discovery and Organization. So you can see our mission here. And we know that this is something that our customers struggle with. And we are continuing to build features and listen to our users to better understand how we can solve those problems. So we know that's a big problem area, and we're working hard on it. But I do wanted to show you all just how we organize our space. And I'll just point out a few things that, Gorka in his awesome presentation didn't get through, and then hopefully we can do a little Q&A as well. So there's just a few things I wanted to highlight. One is, so as you can see, this is our team space. So really the primary audience is our team. And this is where we do our work, we collaborate. And so I think that's one of the first things that we really think about when we create a new space. Okay, who is this for? Who's the primary audience and the secondary audience? So the primary audience is our team. And I know one of the tough parts in organizing the page hierarchy is it may make sense in my head, but it may not make sense in anybody else's head. And that's really a tough problem. And, we do try to find sort of simple, high level page names to make it easy to understand what that theme is about for people digging in. So let me go into the page tree a little bit. I can show you some of the things that we try to do. So as you can see, this is our entire top level page tree here. So there's, I don't know, 10 maybe pages here. So it's not an extensive list at the very top level. And so we try to keep it that way and pretty generic, because there's too many, people don't even know where to begin. And so I will get into that here. And so one of the things that we try to do is, especially since it's a team related space, we have new team members joining, our team is growing, and we want them to just have a good idea of where they can go to poke around and find information. And one of those places is these knowledge docs page. And so what we generally do here is, for each top level page, what we will do is we'll include the page tree macro here, so that you can at least see from a page all the different titles and pages that's listed in that hierarchy. And so that's one of the best practices that we try to do. And these are pretty generic. Gorka, I know, has a really awesome page structure. I think his is actually much cleaner than ours, but we try to put things at the top that are most frequently accessed. So team meetings, sprint planning, or retros, those are some of the things that are we readily access. And so we just try to think about, okay, if the things that our team is trying to access on a regular basis, let's put them up at the top. And I won't go into the planning because there's some things in there, but those are some of the best practices that we do for the page tree. One other thing I do want to mention is that I talked about primary and secondary audiences. So this is our team space. So the primary audience is our team, and mostly they are looking through the page tree. And so we try to make it easy for those folks to be able to find what they're looking for. But if we think about our secondary audience, it's our team, our colleagues across different teams, maybe leadership, and generally those folks are looking for updates on a project. Like, hey, what's going on with this particular thing or issue, and who's on the team? How can I contact them? So when we think about that secondary audience, really we leverage the overview and shortcuts. And so I'll go into overview. So this is very simple. It's very clean, but it basically it's almost like a landing page. Just, hey, what's this team about and who are they? And we try to highlight visually just who we are as a team, what we're about. And then here's a link to Slack, our Slack channel here. And that's really a good starting point for our secondary audience, because generally they're looking for, okay, I know this is the team that owns this particular feature. I need some more information. Who do I contact? And so we try to provide details on who we are. As you can see, our roles here. And so that's one of the things that we try to keep this clean and help them find where they need to go. And shortcuts here, as you can see, decision log, that's kind of like a register, if you will, of all the different things that are going on, the decisions we made. And I won't go into that, but that's a good place for our secondary audience to go to and to see, okay, what's going on? I needed some updates here. I can pick from that so that they can self-serve. And these are our metrics, our dashboards. And so it's easy for either leadership or other folks to take a look at that and just see like metrics if there's if they wanted to check something. So we think about the overview and shortcuts really for the secondary audience.
I think
And
this
one,
secondary
yeah, go ahead.
audience approach is so interesting because like that's almost the feeling. I mean, that's the feeling that everybody has when they drop into a space, even if it's supposed to be their team space. So I think it's amazing how you're thinking about, okay, first impression, what are people really looking for when they're finding our team? Rather than what I think it was Alan described, you know, you have this this anarchy in the space, and only those like senior people on the team who have waded through it know where to find, you know, the things that people are looking for. Also, DJ, I don't know why you're being so secretive. I mean, why can't we see the decision live? We're just on a live stream. We're not going to tell anybody. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So last thing I want to mention, Matt, yes, and we certainly know that the page tree sprawl, as we call it, and the anarchy, I understand those, that certainly happens. That happens with our space. And, you know, regularly we'll need to clean up. And, you know, we are working on better ways to identify when that needs to happen and give you better tools to actually keep your page tree organized. But one thing I do want to show you is this is a feature that we built. And yes, as I mentioned, the page tree structure, you know, it makes sense in my head, but I don't understand why Matt doesn't understand the logic behind all the decisions I made about where to put what things. So, but there's one of the things that we wanted to show is we have these things called space views. So if you go into this overflow menu, so this is a personalized view. And when I mean personalized, it's if you click one of these options, this changes the page tree just for yourself. So that's easier for you to find what you need to go. So for instance, I will look at last updated. So this changes the page tree to look at the last updated pages. And it only changes for your page tree. So it helps you, you know, more quickly discover what you need to go to. And there's also the My Visits section where you know you were in this space. You're like, gosh, like where is this page? I know it's in this space. I don't know where it's in the page hierarchy, but you can use My Visits. Essentially, this is your recently viewed pages in this space that will, you know, just show that view in this page tree here.
That's so
and
awesome.
then also, you know, A to Z. If it's easier for you to find pages through alphabetically, this is something that you can use. And so I do want to show that it's kind of a way for you to navigate kind of around if you don't understand, if you've been to the space before and you don't understand the kind of the hierarchy. And so I did want to offer that up for folks in case the audience doesn't know about that feature.
This is so great because we all want to personalize the tools we use. And like you said, like the more I learn about, you know, neurodivergence between individuals, we all think about things differently. We think of structures differently. And also, like, I don't know about you, but I'm always like, I just worked on that page.
Where is it?
What was it called? Or, you know, or who created? I don't remember. By the way, I just want to say we have DJ here. So if you have an incredibly difficult question, you should drop it into the chat now, because I'm not going to be able to answer it on the next live stream. So if you think about those, you know, let me know. It was mentioned in the live chat. Unfortunately, these views are not available in Data Center at this time. This is a cloud thing. Wah, wah. It's true. Yeah. It's true. Speaking of cloud things, did you want to talk a little bit about the homepage? Because I know there have been a lot of changes to the homepage as well.
Yeah. So, okay, I can talk about the homepage. I don't want to go to the homepage because there's going to be a lot of sensitive information there.
Let's see. I might be able to show. I can show my homepage. Can I show my homepage? Shoot, I can't show my homepage either. I don't have a view.
You know, maybe I can go to the community post. Whoops.
You know what I can do? I think I have an ugly way to show my homepage here.
I can also pull up the community post, but
here we go. I'm showing one right here. Yeah.
kind of a private early access program where we got customers to just give us feedback while we're building. And so this is where it's all coming from. And really, at the end of the day, we settled on people want to just pick up where they left off. And people want to just catch up on what's happened so that they can jump back into what they were working on. And so from that lens of picking up where you left off, we have that kind of that section, literally pick up where you left off. And that's your recently viewed pages. And so what we noticed too is that in recents, 70% of all clicks come in the top 3. And so, we wanted to not completely just recreate recents, but be able to have that to quickly access. And so that's why we show 5 at the top, but you can also click show more and it'll load the next 10 just directly without leaving the page. And then our activity feed, which is, really our biggest change. So the following feed is, we know that for folks who, have a lot going on in their Confluence and are collaborating, we wanted to, there can be a lot of noise. And so we wanted to be able to have them focus in on what's actually relevant to them. And so that's the purpose behind that following feed, is where you can follow the spaces, follow pages that are most relevant, or people that are most relevant to you, so that you get that view and can stay focused. That's one of the main things that we're trying to think about is, how can we help you focus? Because there is a lot going on. Everyone has Slack or Teams or whatever other products, email, and there's just a lot of information overload. But we do want Confluence to be able to be a place where you can do that deep work and focus. And so that's why we built that following feed. And there's a few other features there, but those are the main things. But
right.
Matt, if there's any particular things that you want me to touch on, or if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, I do apologize to everybody that I can't show this. Of course, that was the one thing I'm not ready to show. Sorry for the sound cutting out there for a second. I think the following feed is particularly interesting because, again, this whole thing is about structuring content so people can find it, and the following feed is just this other part of content discovery and continued interaction with the content. And I think that's a really special thing. Now, I have a question here from Lucas, which I think is a really interesting one. So he pointed out that the page side, the sidebar in Confluence, like when you're looking at a page, doesn't have search for content within the page. So you're kind of left to know that you can search with your browser, or hopefully somebody dropped like a table of contents macro in there. Any thoughts on that? Is there a reason for that?
As far as, you mean direct, like searching a particular part of the page hierarchy? Is that what it is? Or
search for words within the page even.
Yeah. We rely on, if folks use, the browser, just find there, or just our search at the top bar. And so we've certainly thought about how does search play into the page hierarchy. And one of the things that we're doing is we've really, I know search is something on Confluence that's been a big topic, that we're really investing in that area. And we understand the user feedback. And, we've really staffing up, a team on that to help address those problems. And so what I can say is we're investing in search. We don't have anything planned right now to directly just search within the page natively. But we hope that there's, soon you all see some of the advancements to search that we're planning.
There's an amazing engineering article out there about the improvements that were made. I think it was last summer, to search on cloud, like basically rebuilding it on top of Elasticsearch. It's really incredible work. It makes me hopeful. Andrew pointed out in the chat that pages shouldn't be so large that you need to search them. I like that. I like the thought, and certainly like content structure certainly helps with skimming and things. But I could see, I've read through some tech specs or things that get, they're just wordy by nature, where you do need to, if your eyes can't skim it out, maybe you do have to use your browser. Let's see, TJ wondered, what tools or processes have you put in place to keep your spaces clean? I can think of some, but DJ, what?
I'd love to hear your thoughts, Matt. That's really the $1 million question. So we what we found is there's certain what we call them unsung heroes of a space, and these are folks who are more naturally inclined to keep things organized for the team. And so actually our engineering manager, he really serves that role, and he really thinks through the structure. I know Gorka talked about, planning things out on a piece of paper or like a whiteboard. Our engineering manager does that. And so for him, he's especially when we have a new project, he thinks about where they go. And part of it too is in our team docs, and we sort of help try to walk through the space with new team members to help them understand where things go. And so that's one of the things. But on an ongoing basis, like each quarter during our quarterly planning, we do kind of have set aside some time to review, hey, does this make sense given our projects that we're pursuing, how the team is growing, and the focus of our team. So, all that to say, we do have a dedicated person that thinks about that. That's part of their, role. And we look at it on a quarterly basis, which makes sense from our planning perspective. But Matt, I'd love to hear from how you all do it, because I feel like you all are actually the subject matter experts on processes and rituals, if you will.
Well, I would say part of it is, so just like your team and your organization should have a set of, shared like core beliefs, or, our set of shared statements to be kind to each other, and kinder to our future selves. I think one of those elements for us that's sort of built into our culture is keep your content in order, make sure it's up to date. And we're good at preaching that. We're pretty good at practicing that. But everybody falls into that. And I think the biggest thing that is very hard to do that we're getting better at is archiving or deleting old content. It's so easy to just build up clutter, and then that clutters up search. People look at a page that's like 5 years old and they're like, is this accurate? Remembering to keep the stuff where, we made decisions and things that need to stick around, but then getting rid of all the clutter. So on a previous team, I had an individual on my team who was really good at identifying the content that is just cyclical, or not cyclical, but it only matters for a time. So we would do 3 major releases a year. And so he actually helped us move that content sort of to an archive space of like, okay, here's, and we would maintain the last year of release information, and then we would slowly archive that away. And it helped us simplify our team spaces. So what was in there, most of it was evergreen. All the meeting notes for the release, all the, tech specs and test plans and documentation, they all passed away over time as things do. But it's really that the hygiene, making sure everyone on the team knows that the hygiene is everybody's responsibility and not just one. There are some people on my team that are exceptionally good at helping us structure stuff and figure out when things need to be moved, but it's everybody's responsibility to actually brush and floss every day, so to speak. All right. Any other questions? I guess last call for questions, everyone. DJ, I know you didn't want to share your decision log or any of the plans with us, but I just was, I feel like I should ask one more time. Was there anything that you wanted to hint at or share with us?
One of the things that we're looking into on my team is labels as another way to help you organize. We know the experience itself and just the UI, quite frankly, needs a little bit of a refresh. So that's something that our team is working on. Really, at the end of the day, a couple of things that we think about is first, to use labels, you got to add it. How do we make that experience better? And really, people, wonder, am I adding the right label? Is this the right label? Do I need to add more labels? Like, that's a problem area that we're working on. And then once you add a label, it's no good if it doesn't actually help you find the pages you need or generate reports via macros. And so so that's another category of problems that we're looking to solve. And then the next category is managing your labels. Let's say you get great labels adoption, but classic example is someone's using project versus projects, and how do you resolve that issue? Yeah, and how do you add labels to multiple pages at once? And so those are the areas that we're thinking through for labels, and we're super excited about that. And we're constantly thinking about on the space, because organization is such a big problem area. We have this idea around curation. So if you think about the page tree is a great record of all the pages in your space, but at any given moment, nobody needs to know or see all the pages in a space. You only care about, I don't know, 1 to 5 pages, right? At any given moment in time. And so we're thinking about better ways of how do you curate the most important pages that you need at that time, because I don't need to see hundreds of pages in my space. There's only like 1 or 2 or 3 things that I'm working on at a time that I need to see. And so that's one of the problem areas that we're really focusing on as well.
Ooh, okay. I'm super excited now. Okay, so if you're curious about what labels look like today, how to use them, we have a video of that on our channel, and we have a really great labels live stream. And you can sort of see how we recommend to sort of kind of solve the problems that DJ mentioned, but you'll also see the rough edges, especially as you start using them. So DJ, I'm going to officially extend the invitation now to join us again on the live stream when you can show us some of these labels improvements and others. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. All right. And I do not see any other questions here, just a lot of kudos and thank yous. DJ, thank you so much for joining us, even though it's early in your day. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you everyone who has jumped onto this live stream. This has been so much fun for me. I love bringing experts here to talk about just getting the best out of Confluence. As you can tell, at K15T, we're just taking Confluence like a sponge and just trying to squeeze the very best out of it, because we know that using Confluence in the best way possible will help us transform our organizations and meet those goals that we have, the reason that we brought this tool to our organization to begin with. But of course, there is much more that you can do with Confluence. So, jump into another video or join us for another live stream as we continue to explore how to use Confluence to share what you do best. Bye.